Hello and welcome to the second video in the KismetKit series from UDKME. And if you're just joining us for the first time, KismetKit is a series that breaks down the functionality of various different blocks of Kismet. What you're seeing on the screen now is what we made in our first video, which is a top-down camera. And here, the Kismet sequence that makes up that functionality. In this video we're going to extend this and make a basic actor that's visible on our screen, since the default game types don't give you a visual representation of your character. Then, I'm going to show you how to toggle between three different cameras: a top-down camera, an over-the-shoulder cam, and a side cam. This kind of functionality would traditionally be pretty time-consuming in Unreal Script. The lessons learned in this video will ultimately give you the tools you need to come up with all kinds of different camera behaviors, both dynamic and scripted. Furthermore, it can be very useful to prototype in this manner that gives you visual feedback right away. So to make some kind of basic actor visible as our character, we're going to need to add another attached to actor node in our Kismet chain. So we need to make some room. We'll move the level loaded over, then duplicate the existing attached to actor. After you have it in a good position, right click and break all links to objects. Then we'll plug it into the beginning of level and to the other attached to actor. Then plug the target into the same player variable, since what this node does is it attaches a mesh to our player and the other one attaches a camera to our player. They both do essentially the same thing. Speaking of which, we need a mesh, so in your content browser, under static meshes, find something suitable. I think I have something good in mind. I remember there being a statue here somewhere, and that'll be good enough for now to help us get a perspective on our player, and later on we can change it with something more suitable. And where is it? It's around here somewhere. Pretty sure that. I don't remember it being this far down though. I think I might have passed it. There it is. So let's go ahead and add that to the map. To do so, we're going to need to add actor, then down at the bottom here we need to load the static mesh first, and then we'll have the option to add it as an interp actor. If you watched the previous video like a good little boy or girl, you'd remember that it has to be an interp actor so that it can move around the map. Back in our Kismet view, we can now add a new object variable using interp actor 0. Connect that to attachment. Now, because this attached to actor node is a duplicate of our existing one, we're going to need to zero out some of these coordinates. After all, we want our mesh to be in exactly the same position that our player is and oriented in the same direction. When we test the level, the position is correct, but obviously the orientation is somewhat off. To take care of that, we enable use relative rotation, and we test again. Now things are working just fine. From here we're going to set up an input system that will enable us to toggle between three different camera views. Now one of these camera views needs to be the default, and that's going to be the existing top-down cam. The second one will be the over-the-shoulder cam, and the third the side camera. So to trigger the action of changing a camera, we need an event, and that's going to be an input. There are various types of input, and the most suitable is a key or button pressed. We're going to need 3 copies of this, so copy and paste. And while you're doing that, I'll talk a little more about the input system. It's important to know which output to use when you're using inputs. By outputs, of course, I mean the options that you see on the input node: pressed, repeated, and released. If you don't choose the correct ones, it won't behave as expected. For each of these nodes, we're going to need to output from both pressed and repeated. And repeated basically handles any subsequent times the input is triggered. This is good to have since we're probably going to toggle between our cameras multiple times. Alright, so the next important thing we have to do is duplicate our attached to actor for the camera, and we're going to need 3 of those in total, including the existing one. They don't require an output, so break that, then duplicate one more time. Now during this process I'm just going to speed things up a little bit so as not to bore you to death. Connecting nodes, connecting nodes. As Alex in Clockwork Orange might put it, a little of the old in-out, in-out. And that just about does it. Now we're going to need to set up the actual inputs. I'm going to choose the letters F, G, and H on my keyboard. So for each input, set up one of these letters. Or choose your own. I don't really care, it doesn't matter. The only thing that you need to watch out for is that it doesn't interfere with your other movement input. So for instance, if you want to navigate with W, A, S, and D, it's not really a good idea to use any of those keys. The next thing that we need to do is set up our new camera perspectives for the second and the third view. Now for the over-the-shoulder cam, we want to be behind the player, so for the x-axis, let's try a value of -50. The z-axis we can bring way down because right now we're far above the player. We want to be more behind the player, slightly over his shoulder. Let's try a value of 50 to start. Then the third view, we're going to want to be beside the player. But tell you what, first, it's probably a good idea to name these different attached to actors so we can see which camera is which at a glance. And to do this, in the properties of each, we can specify an object comment. Now our second cam is over shoulder and our third one is a side camera. And our original one at the top is a top-down camera. Like so. And back to setting up the coordinates. We have the over the shoulder now, and we need to set up the coordinates for our side camera. And we want to be directly beside the player, so first we'll get rid of the value in X, zero that out, and Z, of course, should be nowhere near 1000, so let's try 50. Then Y-axis, which is our side to side, let's try a value of 300. We don't want to be too far off. And I think that should do it. Let's double check our properties on our inputs. I think everything looks correct there. Let's give her a test. And our top-down functionality works. No surprise there, as we haven't really changed anything. The real moment of truth is when we try our hotkeys. And, ooh, we can see that something's not quite right here. So, given what I told you in the last video, my next instructions are probably going to surprise you a little bit. Maybe even anger you. You see, I've done a lot of research on the subject of cameras and Kismet, and all available documentation, instruction, and advice on the subject pointed to the inclusion of Matinee as the only way to get this camera look system working. Now the confusion on the subject is understandable, but I think I can help clear things up a little bit. Disconnect your Matinee node and let's explore some of the actions available to us. Under New Action in the Camera subheading, we have a node called Set Camera Target. And then there's another one that I mentioned in the last video, and that one's called Look At. At first glance, both of them seem like they might be suitable for making the camera point at different objects in our level. Confusion arises when we set the target to some object in our level, and set the cam target to our camera, and when we test it, it returns an error about not having a handler on the event. I've discovered that in the case of Set Camera Target, this is because an existing camera must be associated with the target actor. Actors that are placed in our scene don't have this, therefore they need the Matinee to make the camera recognize them. The player variable references an actor that already has a controller, and thus a camera, and so we can take over that camera with a Set Camera Target. With that in mind, let's go ahead and add one to our scene. Connect the target to the player, and the cam target to the camera. The Set Camera Target should function independently of anything else going on, so we'll connect it directly to the beginning of the level output, and we'll move it over as well to make the view a little less cluttered. Then we'll test our level, and you might not be able to tell yet, but it is kind of working properly. There's just one thing left to make this work 100%. You know how in the attached actor nodes we use a relative offset? Well, in this case we need to use a relative rotation as well. Make sure that's checked, and for the top down we want the pitch to be -90. And when we test it, that indeed works. In fact, it works just as well as the Matinee method, and a lot simpler. Sorry guys. I learn best by experimentation, and well, I'm sharing what I've learned with you, mistakes and all. Now let's finish this puppy off by setting up the rotations for the next two views. For the over-the-shoulder view, enable Use Relative Rotation, but don't change any of the rotation values. For the side view, we want the yaw to be -90. Now that we've done this, let's test our level again. Starting off with our default top-down view, then we'll toggle over to the up-the-ass view. It kind of looks like he's getting ready to fart in our face or something. To fix this, we'll need to adjust the offset for this camera to be a little bit higher up than it is now. And the side view is not a side view at all. I think I forgot to check the Use Relative Rotation for that one. Yep. And we check that and try again. And toggle that view. It works perfect. Great, so now we just need to adjust the relative position for the over-the-shoulder cam to be a little bit higher up. And we'll probably need to tweak the side-to-side positioning as well. Okay, so we don't want this guy farting in our face anymore, so in the over-the-shoulder node, let's raise the Z up to, say, 150. Let's try that and test again. Toggle to over-the-shoulder with G or your selected key. It looks like we're a little bit too high up now. Let's try a value of 100. And test one more time. That's pretty good. Not too bad. The only thing now is that he's kind of obstructing our view. It's not really an over-the-shoulder cam per se. If you want it to be like Gears of War style over-the-shoulder, then he should be more to the left. So for the Y offset, let's try a value of 20. And that's better. A little more. How about 35? And Testorino. That's pretty good. You know what, I'm willing to live with that, especially for the sake of brevity in this video. So here is our finished Kismet functionality toggling between 3 different cameras. I hope you enjoyed and find this useful.